Welcome. Boy calls his mother. I'm your host, Sadia. This is my mother, Ima. Hey, Ima.
Mhm.
Yeah. So as I was saying beforehand, I feel like your political ideologies might be a little bit obtuse, and maybe I have to have a reflection on them and maybe realize that perhaps you're wrong. And if you're silent, that means you agree with me. Oh, I guess you are agree. You do agree with me. I thought so. Huh. Yeah. So, anyways, what I was saying was,
I have followed the minhag of no matter what, washing for bread once a day.
mm,
It has to do with, like they said, the 100 brachas. That
yes,
Birkas Hamazon covers the 100 brachas. So you
I
should really
see.
wash for hamotzi once a day.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't. I don't know. Growing up, I'm lucky to be as firm as I am because it really burns you out, which is kind of funny because it's kind of something I wanted to talk to you about and another podcast subject. There
Mhm.
was an article in Chabad.org, and I posted this on the
Mhm.
family WhatsApp like a while ago, and I actually highlighted you trying to get you to respond, and you never responded. Um,
You know, gosh, I don't think I read it. I'll tell you, but can I know her? I'm so busy. I mean, I work full time.
mhm,
I give music lessons at night,
mhm.
and by the time I come home and straighten the house and eat some dinner, I am. But what was the
Sometimes.
article about?
So the article is something very interesting. The title is 12 Tips for the Jew That Just Started Keeping Jewish.
Uh-huh.
And it goes into details and like it has a table of contents like pace yourself, know when to lead, know you are there already. What if
Mhm.
you're not sure if you believe in God? Always be a mensch. Different little tips and tricks that I think might have been important for you and other Baal Teshuvas of the 70s to really implement.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I'll read a little bit of it, and I think we should discuss it. Um,
Okay.
the first one is pace yourself. Um,
Uh-huh.
so I'll read a little bit of it, and then we'll talk.
Mhm.
Like they say, easy come, easy go. Or as God told the Israelites before they entered the promised land, it needs to go step by step. Otherwise, the wild beasts of the field will take over. What are the steps? Depending on the person. Some people need a little nudging along, others need some gentle, slow down pacing. It also depends on the terrain, meaning what's going on in your life. As with any terrain, you've got to ensure the front foot is firmly on the ground before you put the other one forward. Some people
Mhm.
default modality is to jump into the lake to learn how to swim. Most of us need time to first get our feet wet. Take, for example, the couple that decided one day to keep kosher. They threw out all their dishes and bought 2 sets of new ones. Rabbi spent a whole day making the kitchen kosher, and they started buying only kosher certified foods. Within 1 week, nobody would remember which spoon was supposed to be for milk or meat. The pizza cutter had somehow stuck its way into the dishwasher with the plates for meatball spaghetti, and guests had to explain after taking a few bites that no, not all fish are kosher. Certainly not ones with whiskers. Their kitchen, the rabbi had to explain, was no longer kosher. So they gave up. What should they have done? They could have started with a little internship in the home of the Rebbitzin rabbi. Then they could start getting used to buying kosher products and separating milk and meat. Next, they could use 2 sets of dishes while reading everything on Chabad.org about keeping kosher. And then after a few months, it would be time to make the kitchen totally kosher for life. So that paragraph right there, that little snippet, did
Uh-huh.
you ever feel like you were just jumping in head first, or was
No,
this just
I did it very gradually.
explain?
Okay. So first I had my experience in Israel with I told you with Shlomo Karlebach, and then the Rabbi Goldstein student, the girls, I attended some of the shiurim from the Rebbitzin Goldstein, who, by the way, was a Bucky in Gemara,
Mm-hmm.
female Bucky in Gemara. Anyway, so I did it little by little. When I came back to the United States, I at least wanted to keep, Shabbos and kashrus. The Shabbos didn't work out because I was trying to keep it by myself, and it was very hard. You're trying to make kiddush and your family's watching television.
Yeah.
My mother at least lit Shabbos candles. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I was exposed, and we would have a Friday night meal. But my father never made kiddush, but we'd have a Friday night meal with chicken soup, kugel, the usual. So when I came back, I remember first what I started doing was I stopped I had to stop the shellfish. That I
Okay.
knew.
Can you elaborate
And
on
that's
that?
when,
'Cause I know, couldn't you elaborate on that? Because I know we talked in previous podcasts.
I just stopped. Let's put it this way: after I decided to not to keep away from the tray fish, a friend of mine called me to invite me out for crabs. Jewish guy, as a matter of fact. And I said, no, I can't go out for crabs anymore because I've decided to keep kosher. And he goes, you're keeping kosher? I said, yeah. He goes, there went the Maryland crab industry.
Yeah, we've
And it
talked
did,
about
by
it.
the way, it went down after that.
For sure.
Okay, so I started that. Then so when I would go out on a date or something, I cut out Fleischiger restaurants and I just would go after pizza because I didn't realize that, the cheese also has to be kosher, the rennet, the
Mhm.
cheese, everything. But I didn't realize that at the time. But at least I thought, at least I'm not eating the trafe, the trafe shellfish, and I'm not eating the trafe meat. Of course, the ham and everything that I knew immediately had to go. You know, um, and then eventually I realized that no, that the pizza had to be kosher too. So I started looking around for like kosher pizzas and things like that, and boy, it was hard to find a lot of the stuff that we take for granted now, like you know kosher pizza, things like that, kosher cheese, like that. A lot of it was hard for me to find. So, but eventually, like I did eventually was able to find like kosher cheeses and things like that. And then eventually, I started keeping Chalav Yisrael. Um, the Shabbos eventually, once I was introduced to, once Dr. Kranzler got me in contact with the Chabad family, then the Shabbos was easier because I would go over their house for Shabbos. As far as Sanias goes, so I started wearing skirts. Okay, they weren't past the knee, but they were like right there, kind of right at the knee. I stopped wearing sleeveless. The sleeves weren't exactly to the elbow yet, but at least they weren't sleeveless. Um, and it was a good, I guess it was a very, very gradual process. Eventually, I found out about Chalav Yisrael. Then when I went to New York, I went to New York for, I think it was a Pesach. And while I was there for Pesach, one of the girls took me to this clothing depot that they had in this woman's basement. And then I was able to get like a whole wardrobe of actual Sneistic clothing, that actually went to the elbow, covered the collarbone, went, past the knee. Like I said, it was a very, very gradual. It took place. Let me see. I started becoming around when I started teaching in Baltimore City. That's September of '73 was when I started. And when I finally made the actual transition, wasn't until actually the following September of '74 when I went to Crown Heights and actually made the whole transition of being totally Sanias and Chalav Yisrael, and and even when I first started keeping Shabbos, there were a few Shabbosim at the very, very beginning. Like I got home late, and it was already past candle lighting time. I got stuck in traffic, that type of thing. There was one Shabbos where my mother had to go to the doctor. It wasn't an emergency. It was just an ordinary doctor visit. But she said, it's a mitzvah to take your mother to the doctor. It's very important. It's my health. And I wasn't quite totally from. Said, okay, so I did it. I drove her to the doctor. My mother never learned how to drive, unfortunately. And so I drove her to the doctor. And then afterwards I said, I realized, I thought to myself, I'm not going to do this anymore. That's it. Forget it. I'm finished driving on Shabbos. I'm not going to do that anymore. Like I said, it was, it's a gradual process. You're switching. See what it is when you become frum, you're taking on an entirely new lifestyle. And with anything else, it needs to be a gradual process. The whole process from beginning to end should take maybe about a year and a half, something like that, maybe even 2 years to totally take on like all the aspects of from kite. But it has to be gradual so you can adjust to, like I said, it's going to be a new lifestyle. Also, I found in general, like after I finished with college and went into the working world, I lost all my friends. I mean, we all went in different directions. And for a while, I had no friends. I mean, I was dating a little bit, but then when I started to become from, especially in Baltimore, it there was no real social life for young from people. There was really nothing. And so eventually that's why one of the reasons I moved to New York. And to a certain greater later to a certain or greater extent, certain aspects that hold true even to today, because I know people who in their quest for shidduchim have not had too much luck in Baltimore and decided they wanted to move to New York for a better social life, for a more active social life, and for a more active looking for shidduchim, like atmosphere.
Do you know what kind of journey Tati had to a point?
Yeah, yeah. He told me he had a he started to attend, and he was Kaplan's brother, Shmuel Kaplan's brother. I think was a shaliach in where he went to college, and he started to attend his shiurim. And then he had the idea. He said to him that he felt like he wanted to become a Hebrew school teacher. He always had that idea, maybe become a Hebrew school teacher. So Rabbi Kaplan said to him, "Oh, he says, I know a great rabbinical college you can go to." And he sent him to Morristown. And in your father's words, he said he was there for an entire week before he realized, hey, there are no girls here.
I love it. So the next step is know when to leap. Yes, there are times for leaping forward, as with any upward hike. There's going to be occasions where the only way to get ahead is by sprinting over a stream or climbing over that big rock. If you're going to keep Shabbos, at some point you have to say bye-bye to your electronic devices for 25 hours every week. If you want your children to pass along your good new choice about living Jewishly to their children, you're going to have to make that leap of putting them in a Jewish school. Then there's the leaps that demand deep inner strength, such as breaking up an intimate relationship with a non-Jewish partner, and then you stand there at your new vista point, taking the view, taking the air, take a bite of your kosher sandwich, and only when you're comfortable up there, take the next step forward, step by step.
Yeah, I remember when I was in Israel, when I was thinking about becoming from, at that time I was spending Shabbos with this girl who was a Baal Tshuva from, in fact, she was from the coast, she was from California, and she had traveled all over the world. She even went to the world's most northern city, which is Yakutia. That's how far she traveled, even up to there. And we were discussing the idea of perhaps me becoming from a Baal Tshuva. And I said to her, but I have a Goyish boyfriend back home that I dated for, like, my goodness, a year and a half. We dated for an entire year and a half, from the end of middle of my junior year all the way to my senior year. And she says to me, "You're going to have to give him up." And then she saw the look on my face and she says, "I know it's hard." She was very, it wasn't like she was so gavordik. She said to me, "I know it's hard, but you're going to have to." So when I went back home, I told my boyfriend about, he was anxious to come over to my house and everything, see how my trip went to Israel. I told him about my trip in Israel, about a bomb exploding a block away from where I was standing. And I think he said to me, and walking like 1 o'clock in the morning through an Arab neighborhood. I mean, and he says to me, "It sounds like you were lucky you got back alive." So I said it was a very fulfilling trip and everything. And I said, "Listen, I got to discuss something with you. I've decided I want to become an Orthodox Jew. And if we're going to continue to date and perhaps get married, you're going to have to convert." And he says, "Let me go home and discuss it with my family, and I'll get back to you tomorrow." And the next day he came to my house. He looked horrible. You could tell he hadn't slept, and he looked really bad. And then that's when I thought to myself, well, actually, the first night he came over, that's when I told him, you have. So my mother said to me after he left, she goes, "Did you break up with him?" I said, "No, not quite." And my mother looked at me, she goes, "You're weak." And so the next time when he came over, I realized, that old saying, if you really love them, you'll let them go.
Yeah.
And I realized I can't put him through this. This is not him. He's not, this is not him. This is, to take him, to pull him away from his culture, his, religion he's been raised with. This is not fair to him. And so I decided, I made up a story. I'd met this guy in Israel. And I really hadn't. I'd met this guy in Israel. And so I kind of told I guess we'd say a white lie. I said, hey, that this guy I met in Israel contacted me, and I think I'd like to get together with him, and I'm sorry. And like, he came into the house, he didn't say anything, he just sat down on my couch. And he just sat there in silence. And he like I said, he looked so worn. He looked horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I told him, I said, I think I'm going to get together with this other guy, and I think you better go. And he said, yeah, I think I better go. And he left, and
yeah.
I was thinking about that letter. There was a letter, to the Lubavitcher Rebbe that was written by a young Jewish boy who was dating a non-Jewish girl and wanted to marry her. And the Rebbe said pretty much the same thing to him. He said to him, you're not being fair to her.
Yeah.
Said, you know what she's getting into. She doesn't. And this is not fair to her.
Yeah.
And that's very, very true.
Did Tati go through anything similar? I taken he did. You want to care to elaborate?
He was also dating a non-Jewish girl. And it was, he felt very attached. It was hard for him to break up with her. He was going to Morristown.
Oh, wow.
And what happened was he went to a Farbrengen of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And as the Rebbe was leaving the Farbrengen, the Rebbe turned around and looked at him.
Oh.
And when the Rebbe looked at him, your father thought to himself, okay, I got to say goodbye to my Goyish girlfriend. So what happened was, so he wrote her a letter saying he wished to break, whatever. A little while later, she wrote back a letter to him that she was in a lot of trouble because she borrowed $300 from him to get out of the trouble she was in. Sure. Let's put it this way, he paid the price. he never saw this $300 again.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. The next part says, no, you are there already. But hold on. If you're moving ahead step by step, aren't you sinning in the meantime? No. And the sages of the Torah have a lot to say about this. God isn't a tyrant with his creatures. God only expects from you what you're capable of. The Torah wasn't given to angels. Get that? God prefers imperfect humans who try hard over sublime angels who sing nice songs all day. There's an important principle in halacha. As long as you sincerely climbing upwards, rung by rung, you're at the top of whatever you have to be. Here's an example. On Pesach, a Jew is not allowed to possess leavened bread. Let's say you discover some bread in your home during the holiday. You need to destroy it immediately, but that takes time. During that time that it takes you to find a way to destroy this bread, are you sinning by owning the bread? The answer is no. As long as you are actively engaging the process of getting rid of this bread that you found, it is though you've already destroyed it. Same with your efforts to fulfill all the mitzvahs and not break any prohibitions of the Torah. Nobody can be expected to suddenly get everything right from the get-go. It takes time to get up to the speed to clear the runway. As long as you are fully engaged in reaching that goal for the moment now, you are exactly where you're supposed to be 100%.
In other words, they're saying, keep working with it. Be patient with yourself and just keep working with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever beat yourself up and feel like you weren't worthy and you weren't like from enough and things like that?
Oh, I do that every day.
Well, I mean, I guess it never really stops.
But because I know, I started a couple of years ago going on Chabad.org and listening to the Shiurim.
Yeah.
And then it occurred to me, hey, why don't I listen to the Shiurim, while I'm driving? I should do it while I'm driving. Sometimes I'll turn on the radio.
Yeah.
I feel like I just want to shut this off. I just want to clear my head. I want to listen to the radio, to the news and to the talk shows. And it's the same stupid commercials and the same thing they're saying. And after a while I go, okay, I'm tired of this. Let me just turn on Chabad.org and Listen to one of the Torah Shorim.
It's funny you say that because I listened to Rabbi Gordon on the way to work,
Yes.
and it's just because like I would listen to him for a long time, and then I'd be like, you know what? Let me just go ahead and listen to the radio, see what's up, and like it's just nails on a chalkboard because I listen to 98 Rock, and like it's like they're trying too hard to be funny, and they're trying to be shock jocks, but still, keep their jobs, and it just looks like it's just sad, pathetic, like old guys trying to talk about stuff that are hip for like 20-year-olds, and it's just so bad. And then you have like idiots that
is it the same guys there? I think with the three of them. What is it?
yes,
One of them's Jewish and I
yeah,
think one's
Josh
Jewish,
Spiegel,
was Catholic. Yeah.
yeah, Josh Spiegel, and like he's just he tries to play off the poor schlub sometimes, which always drives me up the wall. I hate it when Jews do that.
Yeah, he's been on there. I remember when remember when Malachim, I think, was 17? He brought them cookies. He baked them cookies.
Yes,
Chocolate chip
yes,
cookies. They had him on the they had him in the studio. He came into the studio, give him these cookies. They were
yeah.
talking to him.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like like it's cute and funny, but like the older you get, the more sad it is, and just like I just lose
How
interest.
are they now?
There
What
must
are they
be in
now?
their 40s, in their must be late 40s, because I remember listening to Josh Spiegel when I was a kid, and I remember listening to him with Mickey and Amelia, another set of people, and it was just like whatever. He does this like pathetic kind of character sometimes, and it's just very frustrating. Like he like bumbles over the words when he talks, and he's supposed to give like this whole newscast, and he's like, oh, I don't know how to say that, oh, and he just, I don't know, it's just it's trying to be funny, and it's just cringe. It just bothers me.
Well, there was this one talk show, the one station I was listening to one morning. It wasn't him. It was a different talk show, and it was really funny. They had three DJs or talk show hosts. One was Jewish, one was Protestant, one was Catholic. The Protestant and the Catholic guy got into this very heated theological argument about Christianity. I mean, they were really butting heads. So the Jewish guy says, well, all I've got to say is I'm Jewish, and it makes me feel so good to watch the two of you fight.
It's I don't know. I have real, like, it gets to me where you have that Woody Allen character that every person has to do. Where it's like, oh, I'm a sniveling Jew who can't like defend himself. Whatever. That's a different topic.
I remember when I beat up that girl when I was in 7th grade.
Yeah.
She was shocked. She said, oh my God, you Jews really do know how to fight. And that was the point where she ran away.
Yeah,
she thought because I was a Jew, it was going to be an easy hit.
Yeah, of course.
Surprise.
Yeah. And then when we defend ourselves, all of a sudden we're the, genocidal maniacs. Whatever. It is what it is. All right. Next. So, next one says, what if I'm not sure? Sorry. What if I'm not sure I believe in God? You're on a long road. Doubts come and go like signposts on the highway. There are bumps, there are hills, there are sharp turns. Just keep driving with your eyes on the road ahead and your heart on your goal. Judaism is more about a healthy way of life than a steady state of mind. That's a good thing because minds are always in flux, but a healthy lifestyle is built of consistent, healthy habits. Learn lots of Torah, do lots of mitzvahs, and your belief in Hashem will grow like a well-tended fruit tree. Did you ever lose faith, I guess, midway through like your time being from?
Well, the thing is, I started out as a Jewish atheist.
So, I know, but did you ever like relapse? Is what I'm trying to say.
I never really relapsed. I mean, I always, I say it. It's that sometimes it's hard to remember that there's a God and that he controls the universe. And I don't know if I told you about my Hispanic coworker.
You mentioned her a couple of times on air.
Yeah, And whenever I get into these moods of anxiety or worry, she always says to me, Zalka, where's your faith in God? You know,
Yeah.
and it's I think as Americans too, Americans we're raised on this idea of being able to determine your own destiny.
Yeah.
And so when you're raised like that, when you have that mindset, when things don't go right and you start to get anxious, it's, you know, hard to get yourself into that mindset of, wait a minute, there's a God on this earth that runs everything. Especially sometimes, I remember when I was in college being afraid of failure.
Mm.
And my older sister Anne saying to me, look, you've come this way very successfully. Okay. She says you can continue to be successful. I mean, I graduated, I got a full scholarship to college. I graduated with honors from high school. I was in the honor society and made the dean's list come, and I graduated cum laude from college. So she always, whenever I would doubt myself, she would say, hey, you've come this far. Come on,
Yeah. I mean,
and but the good thing, the good thing about like the Rebbe, I think we mentioned this before, about the Rebbe said that he preferred the Jewish atheist to the Jew that believed in Avodah Zarah.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that once. Yeah, so it's but today, like sometimes I get I have anxiety, and I get worried about this isn't going to go right, that's not going to go right. What if I can't do it? What if I don't succeed? What if I? And then it's especially like money. Like, hey, what if I don't have the money for this one, don't have the money for that? Baruch Hashem, I can still work, but as you get older, I look around, and it's really sad. I see a lot of people, either in my age bracket or in their 80s now, who they just can't work anymore. They're developing physical ailments that are preventing them from actually being able to be fully productive. And it concerns me. And financially, if I can't work, what's going to happen, type thing. And then I have to remind myself, hey, there's a great big God that controls everything, that's carried you this far. Mm-hmm. And don't worry, he'll take care of you also. And there's some people that God really takes care of. Like, take care of him, Tony.
Did Tati ever lose faith?
I don't think so. That's a good question. If he did, he didn't tell me.
Okay. Did you ever maybe pay attention to him?
Huh?
Did you ever I said, maybe did you ever pay attention to him and see maybe he, like, I don't know, missed a minion or didn't do something or just said something under his breath that you felt wasn't really, like, because you both went through a lot, together. Mm-hmm. And there were definitely times that were very frustrating. And, mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised if you guys had moments of just like, this is ridiculous. I hate my life. I want this all to end, But no, I'm just curious if anything else comes to mind.
I remember there was one time when I heard about somebody's young cousin, woman in her 30s, passing away. Mm-hmm. And I remember, this is horrible. I remember thinking to myself, isn't she lucky? It's all over for her now. I don't struggle anymore. And I thought, gosh, that's horrible. You shouldn't think like that. But there was one point where your father, we made the commitment to have a large family. And there was one point where your father kind of like said, he said, I don't know if I can, continue, to have. Now, I loved having one kid after the other. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I loved having your kids. I loved raising you. I mean, I like children. And I found the whole process of, pregnancy and birth, and then, and then having the baby, and then raising the baby, and, working with your kids, and, just I'm very child. A lot of my friends have told me that, said that I'm very child oriented, which I have.
Yeah,
I've
you are
always
a
loved
child.
working with
You're right.
children. But your father at one point said, "Look," he says, I don't know if I really want to continue like this." So I said to him, "Well, you better be very careful not to get pregnant."
Very cute. All right, we're going to skim through a few others. One was always be a mensch. The Rebbe said that what is a straight path in Torah mitzvahs that you should take, a path that fits you beautifully and is beautiful to others as well. So if the path you're taking is leading you away from the people who care about you the most, it's time to check whether you're taking it in the right direction. After all, Torah is not just between you and God, it's also between you and others. Torah is supposed to make you a better child to your parents, a better parent to your children, a better spouse, and a better person all around to everybody. That doesn't necessarily imply compromise. Rather, think of it as a kind of art form, a halachic life as a life as art.
Yeah, something that's very true. And unfortunately for many Bali Jews, and I have to include myself in this, and your father, I'm sure, did too. Because we have no one in our family to really gauge ourselves to, because since we weren't raised from, we didn't see any examples of from something new. So a lot of Bali Jews don't know how far they should go, what they should do with their families, what they should not do with their families, back and forth. Like, do I come home and throw everything out of my parents' pantry that's tray? Of course you shouldn't. You should, there are times when, especially with Shomer Negia,
Mm-hmm.
where you have male relatives that will come over and want to give you a hug and a kiss.
Yeah.
Or, put their arms around you or something. And it depends. Like, there was one time my uncle had organized this Jewish group, and he wanted me to speak. And when I came to speak, he put his arm out to me, like to hug me as I came up to the podium, and I kind of backed away because I was just becoming frum, and I was just finding out about being Shomer Negia, and I shouldn't have done that because he didn't know about being Shomer Negia, and then furthermore, it was in public, so I should have just let him hug me, and then later on explain nice when nobody was there. Later on, explain nice, and by the way, inform him what Shomer Negia was about, and I know, I believe you, I love you, but please from now on, we can be friendly, but with no physical contact at this point,
Yeah.
And I didn't do that because it's like that's a point. You don't know, you really don't know what to do. You really don't have far to go, and it's like a hit and miss type thing. It's like you basically learn through experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back now as an older person. I look back, and that there were times when I could have been, like I said, more of a mensch with my family. And when it comes to, it's like the Pesach Seder. What do you say to the Russia? Because what Hashem did for me, this is why I do this. And that's like, psychologists will tell you, like when you're in a heated discussion with someone whose philosophies or lifestyles different from yours, and they're being combative, that the best thing to do is don't attack them, but talk about yourself. Say, well, this is what I prefer to do. This fulfills me, because they can't argue with that. You say that you find this fulfilling, fine. You know what I mean? You just, you're not attacking them. You're just saying what you find fulfilling. And that's the best thing. That's the best thing to do with your family. Like, let them do what they want to do. They don't want to keep Shabbos. That's their business. They don't want to keep kashrus. That's their lifestyle. But you, for yourself, you have your own kosher food there. You arrange to go to a Shabbos family for Shabbos. And if they start, attacking you, you can tell them, hey, listen, I'm doing this for myself. And you're certainly free to, to follow whatever lifestyle you want. And, that's your right and prerogative. And this is what I enjoy. This is what I choose for myself.
So we are almost out of time, but I'll do one more. Find a guide. We call that a mashpia or a mentor. Vital if you're aiming for sustainable growth. Many people in your situation have a family that sort of adopts them that's really neat. But if you can't score such a treasure, just target someone you respect and provocatively make this person your mashpia. I'm not gonna elaborate too much. You got 4 minutes. Mashpia, go.
That's right. Be very careful though, who you have as a mashpia. Make sure that perhaps that they totally understand your situation. Because I don't know, we've had a couple I've had a couple mashpiim in my life that some gave me good advice, some did not give me good advice.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, the final adjudicator of any advice is one person, you.
Yeah. Can you give me some examples?
There was a woman in Crown Heights, an elderly woman who she was living alone, and her children were concerned about they wanted someone to sleep overnight Saturday night to Sunday with her to keep her company. And she was not Shomer Shabbos, and she was watching her television. And so I went to somebody in Crown Heights, told me what the situation was, and they said, you better tell her not to turn on that TV while you're there. And I did that because I was finding this, what I thought was I didn't know, I would just, moved to Crown Heights. I was just adjusting to the community. I thought, well, that's what I'm supposed to do. And I realized it was not a good decision. It was not the right thing. She's an elderly lady. She's not Shomer, Shabbos. And, I don't have to watch the TV with her. I can do other things, but this is how she feels comfortable, and I should have left her alone. And eventually it wasn't a good match. I was taking on too much. And so I gave the job to a friend of mine who was a nurse. And it was this was a good match. This girl who was a nurse was very sweet. And she told me, she said, I don't force you to turn off the television. This is how she feels comfortable. I don't have to watch it. I do other things. But she says, I let her do what she wants to do. In fact, she told me that she would tuck her into bed and then give her a kiss. Which, was not my style.
The next thing
it was much better for this woman. Yeah.
What about Tati's? What about Tati's mashpia? Do you know anything about that?
His mashpia, I don't know. I'm not sure. Well, Tati and I chose a mashpia together as a married couple. And I'll tell you the truth, I think there were some situations that he was in left field about.
Mm-hmm. Mashpia, you mean?
Yeah, the mashpia. Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, there were some situations where, yes, he was right on the money, but there were some other situations where I think he wasn't totally he didn't really understand the situation we were in.
Mm-hmm. The next one they talk about is praying at your own pace.
Right.
We only have like a minute and a half, but you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. You just go through. When I first started davening, I was davening everything, and it was taking me hours. So I told Rabbi Kaplan, Shmuel Kaplan, about it. So Shmuel Kaplan went through the siddur with me, and he showed me the most important prayers that would only take me maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes tops, maybe half an hour. That was it, and that was good for me. That sufficed, since I was just starting to get into davening. That was perfect, especially for my Hebrew reading at the time.
And I guess the next one would be, what about prayers you said each day?
Yeah. Modeh Ani, Shema, Shmona Esrei, those are the main ones. Yeah.
Okay.
When you're first becoming those are the main ones.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Yuma. I will talk to you, God willing, later on. Have a great week.
Okay, sweetness. Love you. Have a great Shabbos.
Right.
Although it's early in the week.
Early in the week. Yeah, it is earlier in the week, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm used to doing this Thursday night.
Yeah. No, we switched up to Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Take care.
I love you, darling.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.